So this might be an unpopular opinion. I did not like the new Odyssey movie. And it's not for the same reasons that everybody's talking about, which of course is the casting choices. Although I do believe overall the casting of the movie could have been better. I did go in trying to look past this. I wasn't even thinking about it. But then when they had Hindu actor Hamish Patel literally say on the screen, "We're Greeks," like that took me out. It did. We didn't need that. You could have just not addressed it and I would have forgotten. I had already forgotten. I was just like, whatever, this is Odysseus's people. But then he literally leans into the camera and says, "We're Greeks," or something along the lines of that. But you get my point. And I'm not bashing this actor. I think Hamish Patel is amazing as an actor. I would feel the same way if I saw Charlize Theron in The Woman King, even though she's actually from Africa. And not everybody in The Woman King was from Africa, but they were presenting of the demographic in the movie that they were trying to portray. The same thing with Moana and The Chief of War and Shogun and so many other film projects that portray a story based off of a culture. And that's the thing, when we watch these kind of stories, we want to experience the culture. But honestly, that's the least of my worries with this movie. Now here's my problem. I actually read The Odyssey and I'm a fan of the old movies, I'm a fan of the story, and definitely Epic the Musical, which if you haven't checked that out, you should. The first red flag for me was how they handled the Cyclops Polymathus. In the story, Polymathus and Odysseus have a conversation, and this is where we really get to see how wise Odysseus is and how he can outsmart pretty much anybody. He bribes Polymathus with some wine.
Wine? Have a drink, one sip and you'll understand.
And that's what prompts Polymathus to ask him,
"What is your name?"
To which Odysseus responds,
"My name is nobody, nobody, nobody."
This moment is such an important part of the story that even Batman knows about it.
After Odysseus was caught by the Cyclops, he told it his name was Nobody. So when he poked its eye out and its friends asked who did it, all the Cyclops could say was, "Nobody."
And then he gets back to his ship, and that's when he gets a little bit cocky.
Hey Cyclops! Remember me! I'm the reigning king of Ithaca. I am the infamous Odysseus!
And this is how Poseidon becomes the main antagonist of the story. Instead, we just get some cheap dialogue that's a throwaway line of, "Well, you know, that was Poseidon's son."
That's right, the Cyclops you made blind is mine.
Why is Odysseus's crew smarter than him? Speaking of which, how do you make an Odyssey movie and you don't put the main antagonist in the movie?
Poseidon.
Even the Wishbone episode that was based off of the Odyssey had Poseidon in it. That's how important the character is to the story. So when you leave him out, it's not the Odyssey. And speaking of Poseidon not being in the movie, where are the other gods? We don't see any of the gods that make an appearance in the story, like Aeolus, who captures the storm and puts it inside the bag. They left all of that out, which is kind of an important piece to the story. In leaving out the whole windbag story, we don't get the dissension between Odysseus and his crew.
Like Odysseus, we find water. He finds gold.
The betrayal is just not there.
Slice it open.
Or when Hermes decides that he's going to intervene when Odysseus is going to challenge the witch Circe. And that's where Hermes feeds Odysseus a flower called moly.
And I call this root Holy Moly.
I'm going to use a lot of clips from Epic. And I don't want to hear this thing that you feel God's presence in this movie, because that is not it. This is not a real thing. This is based off of Greek mythology. I also think it's a crime what they did to Zendaya in this movie, because she's absolutely gorgeous and they did not do her justice. In some of the scenes, maybe it's the IMAX cameras, but it doesn't look like they put any makeup on her at all. And she's supposed to be a goddess.
Goddess of wisdom, master of war.
We could have gotten this. We could have gotten something like this, and I would have been happy. It would have been great. Another issue I have with the movie is just leaving out certain characters or certain events and then adding other ones. The character Sinan is not in the Odyssey at all. And they left out his mother completely, which is a big deal when he decides that he's going to travel to the underworld and then he finds his mother there. Imagine the guilt.
I took too long.
Which is one of the most heartbreaking moments in the entire story when Odysseus realizes that his mother is in hell.
Bye, Mom.
I will say there is some really good stuff in the movie, like the whole scene with the Lystragonians and all of that being forced perspective and practically shot. I thought that was really, really smart and really cool the way they pulled that off. The best part of the film was obviously the Circe scene. That whole thing with the pigs and all that was incredible. That was body horror. That was crazy. Christopher Nolan, you need to do a horror movie next. Everybody's talking about it. You need to just go ahead and do that. And although Telemachus had a really big part in the movie, he didn't really do that much. They completely left out the relationship between Telemachus and Athena and how she kind of starts taking him under her wing and shows how wise and cunning he is and how she starts training him to be a warrior as well, which comes in handy later.
You're a good kid.
Thanks.
The pacing of the movie felt completely off. This felt like an abridged version of the Odyssey instead of the Odyssey itself. You know, for a 3-hour movie, it really just did not go. I thought the character designs for the sirens just was a big miss for me. You know, I know they weren't really described in the book, but I mean, I would take any iteration of the sirens that we know and love today, whether it be the winged creatures, or I would really prefer if it was a mermaid. But instead, we just kind of got a glimpse of some women on rocks, and it really wasn't much.
Another one of my issues was the design of the Trojan horse, which just looked a little bit too clean and too polished for me. I really prefer the horse design from the movie Troy.
Scylla and Charybdis happened so fast that I didn't even really pay any mind to it. It really didn't, there was no stakes there. And the entire time I was just waiting for one of those moments in a film where you're just like, aha, there it is. That's it right there. So when the movie was more than halfway through and it was still just kind of mid, I thought to myself, well, maybe the massacre back in Ithaca is going to be crazy. It wasn't. It is widely known that Christopher Nolan does not do action well, which is crazy because he's done some amazing action films, but look, why is that guy falling? What happened there? Also, let's talk about the costumes. This really didn't feel like ancient Greece. I mean, this guy put it best. Why is Telemachus wearing pants? In fact, why was everybody wearing pants? Another thing that threw me off was why everybody was fully garbed in armor after the war when they were sailing home. I mean, even the helmets and the chest plates and everything, I just didn't understand. I'm like, wouldn't you doff that armor after the war? These guys are sitting here rowing in full armor. That makes no sense whatsoever. And I just was thinking to myself, what a choice. And then he finally gets home and it's like nothing. Like there's nothing that's really selling the fact that he hasn't been home in 20 years. Like there's nothing like this.
Jesus.
Like that scene right there, every single time I watch that, I get choked up because I believe that that man has not been home in 20 years. The dude starts crying when he tastes his cheese, when he drinks his wine, when he eats his bread. That scene hits so hard just because you really do feel like he's been away for 20 years. But because of the pacing of this new film, I just didn't feel it. And we didn't have any scenes like that to really send it home. Probably the coolest moment in the movie is one of the coolest moments of the story, but this little addition when he strings the bow and just hits that was cool. But then we got into the action and couldn't see any of it. It didn't incite any emotion. I didn't care. There were no stakes. And Telemachus was kind of a letdown, which he's supposed to be a badass too. And finally, let's talk about the moment that should have been the big payoff. When Odysseus and Penelope finally reunite. This is the love story personified. But we didn't get the embrace that felt like these two lovers have been waiting over 20 years to see each other. It just didn't hit. Not to mention, they didn't even mention their wedding bed that he carved out of an olive tree. Which is another one of those things that, yeah, it's not a big deal, but as they say, the devil's in the details. And these small little details make so much of an impact when the story is being told properly.
See that wedding bed? Could you carry it over and take it far away from here?
How could you say this? I had built that wedding bed with my blood and sweat. Carved it into the olive tree where we first met. The only way to move it is to cut it from its roots.
Only my husband knew that, so I guess that makes him you. I will fall in love with you over and over again. I don't care how, where, or when, no matter how long it's been, you're mine.
I love The Odyssey, and Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite directors, and the cast of this movie is some of the greatest actors of this generation, so I had really high hopes for this film. What did you think of The Odyssey? Are you a fan of the book? Are you a fan of the old movie? Or did you walk into this movie completely fresh with no knowledge of the story at all and enjoyed it? Leave a message in the comments and let me know what you think. And like always, if you haven't already, like, share, follow, and subscribe. See you on the next one.